Good to see you.
To see you, מה שלומך חביבי?
בסדר, ממשיך בחיים.
מתי שאתה רוצה.
Okay, so we switch the language now. We're just talking about humor, and I've been spending a lot of time doing writing jokes and constructing jokes. And it's interesting, a long time ago, I read a lot about the philosophy of humor. And I think we discussed it many years ago about how there are different theories. The first one from thousands of years ago was the superiority theory. There was the idea that to laugh, you had to feel superior over someone or something, someone slipping on a banana.
See a person slipping on a banana.
Exactly.
Bertrand Russell said, if this were so, then a fellow falling from a building will make you laugh your head off.
Yeah. Yes, it's very limiting. The idea you have to make excuses for where it fails.
Yeah.
And then the most prevalent theory.
Freud has a very technical view about jokes.
Yes. What is it?
He said the joke is when you say something unexpected, but once you look at it, you see that it has a logic. It could be expected.
That's Bertrand Russell?
No, Freud.
Oh, Freud.
Freud said two things. He said this about the technicality of it, and about the content, it says you say in jest things not allowed. Like in the Western movies, smile when you call me a liar.
Yeah, that is the thing. I say sometimes I say somebody else said it, I forget who, but some things are too serious not to joke about. Like some things are so serious you can only say them as a joke.
Shakespeare said many a thing he said in jest, many a truth he said in jest.
Yeah, but yeah, many a truth is said in jest. I remember one of my favorite comics, he made a joke about how Malcolm X got murdered only when Malcolm X started talking about unifying poverty, and before that, when he was sowing division among the peoples, he was fine, but he was only murdered after. And that point, which I just said, you know, of course I can just say it, but that point, a crowd won't eat that, a crowd, unless it's served to them on a bed of laughter.
Many jokes have the style, I'll show you that you are an idiot, but don't worry, we love you all the same.
That's interesting.
And many Jewish jokes are self-jokes, namely, I'll show you what an idiot I am, but I'm still a friend of yours.
So, okay, so the you is projected.
Yes.
So you're saying that when a comedian goes up and intentionally makes himself a fool, that is a way of telling you it's okay for you to be a fool.
That's correct, exactly so.
Yeah. Permission to be silly, permission to be whoever you are.
And it's true that jokes often speak to your self-esteem, which looks as if irrelevant, but that is it all the time.
What is as if irrelevant?
Self-esteem, self-respect.
It's irrelevant.
You suppose when you tell a joke about a horse coming to a bar, that doesn't look as if I'm talking about your self-esteem, but wait a minute.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I have seen comedians address the self-esteem of the crowd without jokes.
Yes.
And a whole night goes without a lot of laughter, and then everybody comes out pleased.
usually there comes a point when they roar with laughter.
There is a new phenomenon. It is called clapter. It's when people don't laugh, but they think what they heard is funny, so they clap. And yeah, I was taken to a show and I was horrified at how there weren't any jokes. There was just a socio-political narrative that the audience really liked hearing. And for me, I actually see a couple of shows like that. I saw one guy who was a socialist, and he was trying to say very, very basic, the most reasonable parts of socialism. He was trying to get the crowd to accept through jokes. And I agreed with everything he said, and I was furious.
You know, Bernard Shaw says, I never tell a joke, just it's funny enough.
It's true. You can set up the truth to be funny. Yeah.
The most obvious example, there is a play of Shaw called John Bull's Other Island, which is an Irish joke. And there is a self-portrait of him in the play, and he pretends to be a mad clergyman, Catholic clergyman, which is extremely intelligent because it was as distant from him as possible. He was not religious, and he was anti-Catholic and so on, and anti-Irish, and he appeared there.
Yeah, it's the incongruency of it. The incongruent image is often
incongruent. Yes, quite.
That's another one of the theories, is the theory of incongruity, that makes that laughter comes from a betrayal of expectations.
Right, you know, in Pygmalion, the professor first teaches the flower girl to speak in a very high class pronunciation. And he brings her to a party and she talks extremely low labor people, stories about the drunken aunt and so on. And the incongruity between what she said and the pronunciation is a running joke. It's a few minutes and the audience laugh and laugh and laugh all the more because she goes on telling a very working class story in a very high class pronunciation.
Yeah.
And then the Professor Higgins, realizes that to teach her just pronunciation is not enough. He has to teach her titles, for example. She has no idea what is the difference between a sir and a lord and so on. And he has to tell her this. And this he does in a funny way, which the English audience laughs because it's obvious things and not pleasant things.
Yeah.
He plays on the fact that, say, England is royal, but no Englishman is a believer in royalty.
But no Englishman believes in royalty.
Of course.
We have
look at what they treat the royal family now.
With you. What? I disagree. It seems to me that the British believe in royalty greatly, and the institution is very important to lots of them.
Yeah, the institution, not the royal family.
Well, the royal family is like, it's a person who is an institution.
Who takes the institutional role. It's not that you are the institutional role, you undertake the institutional role. It's very different.
I think, but the Queen is the institutional role. For me, she is almost a reincarnated queen, because her life has been planned before she was born.
Exactly. But when her sister wanted to opt out, it was unthinkable. And nowadays they opt out whenever they like.
So you're saying the British don't actually care about the actual royals, just the institution?
No, they want the institution.
Okay.
And they don't believe in that institution either.
They don't, okay. Yes, they do. That's their pride and joy.
Yeah, but they don't, it's for them a kind of a game. It's a pretense.
You know, I don't, to me, it seems like the royal house is very powerful.
Yes, because they are very rich.
They're very, they're
The
extremely
Queen
rich.
is richest in England except for Rowling.
And there are families who believe they are servant families. So anyone who is born to that family learns before anything that they are servants to the crown.
Yes, especially butlers, yes.
And I think that's great power. No, you don't care?
No, it's not whether I care, but whether I really assume that they believe it. I don't think they do. It's a game.
I think there are people out there who would kill other people because the queen asked them to.
Yes, but you see, whereas 3 centuries ago, royal blood was different from commoner blood.
Okay.
It was a different race. And now, no.
Okay. I see what you mean. So in comparison to olden days, this is not the children of the sun, or
In modern days, the aristocrats were blue blood.
yeah.
You know what's blue blood? When your skin is very white, you can see the veins, the blue veins.
Oh.
It's racist.
Yeah. There was that was a thing of like it used to be, yeah. Whiteness is a virtue.
Yeah, you see, we are all Democrats and egalitarian, but it's not my fault that God loves me more than he loves you.
It's not. It's really between you and God.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not my fault you're hungry.
Yes.
We touched upon this a little bit before when going into royalty, like the truth in comedy, and it attaches to a different point I wanted to get to, is like, I think the truth is intolerable to people, and I wonder why that is.
Oh, because in truth, I'm incompetent and I'm sinner and I'm really no good and I'm ashamed of myself. But
Yeah, well, let's stick to the incompetent, because that's the most real. So yeah, there's a degree of it, because people can't deal with the emotions and the labels that the truth makes them take. No?
look, if you look at professors, the professor has an easy job, tenure, good salary, and they are trembling leaves. What are they afraid of? Just one thing, ridicule. I remember my teacher, Karl Popper, took enormous time before he published anything. He would rewrite and work on it. And I once asked him why. And he said he was afraid of ridicule. Popper, the most important philosopher at the time, he feared ridicule.
Yeah. Yeah, it is like there's a degree, possibly a degree of consequences for ridicule, but once you have tenure, like you might not be able to get grants or so, but
one of the things that make me stand out that I don't mind people ridiculing me. I encourage them to do that.
yes, the other thing is that if anybody ridicules you on a public platform and you have the option of replying, they will
Then they regret.
Worse for the wear.
They started it, yes. By the way, I found very funny when people say something wrong about me. When they finish speaking, I say, look, they say about me that, and I repeat what they say. And there's always laughter.
But you don't repeat the very word, you repeat the essence of what they say.
No, I repeat the very words. You're wrong.
And they deny that they said it?
No. First of all, people laugh at it. Secondly, they don't deny. They try to tell you that you read them out of. Oh, it's such bullshit. I can't even say it.
Yeah.
I once, by mistake, was asked to comment on somebody who praised Heidegger. You can realize I had a ball. And he said I was not expressing my opinion. I was saying what he said about myths. And I said, yes, but you got the example, the Wailing Wall. This is not Heidegger, that's you. And this was so nasty of me, I can't tell you. The fellow cringed, you know.
Screamed?
Cringed, you know.
Oh, cringed. Yeah. I lost my spot a little bit, but we were yeah, there's so much nastiness in what's supposed to be intellectual discussion.
Yes, but the question is, does it matter whether what you say that is nasty is also true? I was by mistake invited to talk about Zizek.
Yeah.
And I said that I'm not used to talk about hooligans. There you are, you see.
You know, I only read one thing about Zizek, which was very incidental to who he is. And that one thing made me say, I'm no longer interested in anything this person ever does. And that's that when students come to his class, he tries to discourage them from attending he has a paper option and the test option. And he tries to discourage students from writing a paper because he says it's no good for you, I will slaughter you. I thought it was one of the ugliest things I've ever heard in my life.
He was an ugly man, and he only attenuated what he said by using dirty language, which at the time was unheard of. Nowadays, a professor can say, fuck you, but at the time they couldn't, and he did.
Yeah. Wait, he's still alive, no?
I don't know.
Okay, but I don't even know what he said. I know the communists love him.
Aba, excuse.
Just a sec, yes.
I'll go to my cousin and I'll be back later, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know that the communists love him. I don't really know a lot about what he said.
Because he introduced levity to serious business. I thought he was cheap.
Okay. The last thing I didn't want to forget, because there's a Freudian theory about humor, and I don't know a lot about it, but it's
Tell me what the theory is. The theory is about an incongruous congruity.
That's an interesting way of putting it. I thought it was the hydraulic theory, the theory of humors, of energetic flow within the psyche.
Yeah, no. He also said that you say just things that you want to say but not allowed, like smile when you call me liar. Yeah. Say, when you say I want to fuck my mother, you have to say it in a joke.
Yeah.
It's painful.
By the way, I did a comedy set about being a psychologist and dealing with the fact that a woman is projecting her sexual father fantasies on you. And it was, I was surprised at how much everybody loved laughing at it.
But the laughing is, in this case, covering up for embarrassment.
I think for some people it was delighted surprise, but I don't.
Let me tell you, I once spoke to an anthropological society meeting. So I told them about the book a friend of mine wrote against anthropology. As it happens, my friend was English and I was talking in America. And they laughed, informing me that I can say the worst things because it's about English anthropologists and they are Americans. And they laughed, looked to me, rightly or wrongly, looked to me insulting. So I gave them a lecture on the anthropology of laughter. And there was such a silence, I cannot tell you. I started by saying that there's a small group, Circassians in Israel. They are afraid to laugh at your jokes because you may think they laugh at you. And they're afraid not to laugh because you think that your jokes are no good. So they laugh. So I started this, and then I showed them how professors of the humanities laugh and how professors of the hard sciences laugh. And the response was incredible. They were so embarrassed, they didn't know how to laugh.
Yeah.
And I had my day. I enjoyed this very much. I thought it was my revenge on them.
Yeah, because you have to stop taking yourself seriously for a second in order to laugh.
Of course.
You can't be dignified in laughter.
Quite.
We're towing near another one of the things I wanted to talk about, which came up a bunch of times, is the misanthropic way we treat ourselves.
Yes.
And there was something. So one quote that we had earlier on is, the more you think ill of yourself, the less you are prone to sin. That's the morality. What interests me about this is that the pattern is true for Christianity, and it's true for communism, and it's true for environmentalism.
Not always true. There are singings that are sheer expression of profound pain. And there are songs of lament. Actually, there are, as you know, women professional lamenters.
Yeah.
And for them, it's not right. The singing has different functions. Usually singing comes with dance. Song and dance come together, and that is joyful. But as I say, not all song is joyful. Broken heart songs, for example, are many, and they are always near wailing, near, what is it, dog wailing at the moon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So music has different colors.
For sure. Here in Portugal, the sad songs is the most popular form. It's called fado, and it's
exactly. And the fado is known all over the world as characteristically Portuguese, because people don't know other Portuguese versions of music. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the most dominant one, to be fair.
Of course. Yes. I don't know how dominant it is in Portugal itself, but outside Portugal, it is Portuguese.
Yeah, no, it was actually the subject of that when Salazar, the dictator, was recreating Portugal's narrative. He made the 3 F's of Portugal were Fatima, which is a holy site, Fado, and family. So, and then they added a 4th F, that's football.
But Fatima is superstition. It's not just religion.
It is a astounding thing, Fatima, because the story is that three young maidens, young children, female girls, yeah, in the church that had a vision of the Mother Mary who gave them prophecies, and the first prophecy wasn't even a prophecy. I think the second prophecy was that World War I would eventually end. And
Not much of a prophecy.
And the third prophecy was sealed and eventually written down and sent to the Vatican. And the article was so long I couldn't finish it, but parts of it were revealed maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's really very important for the people to believe in it. It's a very holy site here.
This is the fact that Christianity or even Catholicism is universal. You know, Catholic means universal. And you want a local version of it.
That's perfect. They have a path to the pilgrimage path. The end is for knees only. So they walk, there's a path to progress only on your knees, and the knees get bloody. And people just, it's amazing.
Why? It's a form of flagellism. Hurting your knees is a flagellism.
Plagiarism?
You know what's flagellism?
To take somebody else's work.
No, hitting yourself.
Oh,
with
flagellism.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, okay, for sure, yes.
Of course, the most flagellist religion is the Shiite. The Muslim Shiites are flagellists. They cut their faces with shaving knives.
I did not know this.
Terrible, yes.
Why? Just because?
I don't know why. I don't understand flagellism. By the way, Judaism is against it, but we know that there were flagellist groups roaming the land.
Mm. Yeah. So another quote I got from you is that our perceived morality is that you are no good. And even today we said, where did that start? Did the Christians start it? Is it always been what we
Already with the Jews, but with the Christians it was most prominent. And of course, it has to do with an idea that the lower you think of yourself, the less likely you are to sin. It is say we want you to be as incompetent as possible. And for this, we have to really bring you as close to paralysis as possible. And the way we do it is by showing you that you are no good. And it's very easy to show you that you are no good because you masturbate.
Because
and that proves that you masturbate, and that shows that you are no good.
But what's interesting to me is that this format goes beyond the religious morality. So if you look at this thought pattern, if you look at today with racism and racism and other sort of cultural sensitivity, it is a war that cultural war that people have against each other to show each other that they're no good because of their insensitivity or their racism. So it's like the same pattern with a completely different agenda and value system.
Indeed, racism in America, for example, has to do with slavery. To say the blacks were slaves.
Yeah.
And
but
that's
various steps of it these days. In Israel, you know, it's not about slavery, it's about social positioning and access to resources.
That's partly so, partly not. Partly it is a superstition that many groups exist of being the chosen people. We are the best because God loves us more than he loves you.
Yeah.
And that's his choice, not mine.
That's perfect. I wonder, you know, I've never heard this thing in my psychology studies, but I heard a construct, conversion impulse. The impulse of the impulse of us of every person to to try and convert other people to their mode of thinking.
Yes,
And
this is the famous set of tests brought this way.
a famous set of tests.
Tests, for example, you can bring a group to behave in a certain improper way, as if they see things wrongly. And one of them is an outsider. And he feels terrible and he begs them to confirm his observation. For example, he sees the right colors, but they pretend that they see different colors. Such simple things. And
Yeah.
being left outside is a terrible feeling. If everybody around you says that the screen is green, and you look at it and you see that it's blue, you know something is wrong with you.
Yeah.
Called Ash type experiments. Ash brought subjects to electrify other subjects with currents that should kill them. Of course, it was wrong. It was no current, and the other fellow was an assistant, but that doesn't matter. Ash said that people are willing, for the sake of science, to kill people. I don't think this is true, but I'm telling you the story.
Milgram, not Ash.
Milgram is one of the, it's called Ash type. Milgram is right.
Okay.
Milgram was the fellow, yes.
Hashtag. Yeah, it's so people. Yeah.
Milgram was the one who concluded that people are nasty inherently. And I think that's not right.
Oh, his studies were awful. He was so bad.
Before that, there were other experiments like people going to psychiatrists expressing some existentialist fears and so on, all fake. And there were people who entered mental homes who were not mentally sick and tried to interact with patients. And all these experiments, I think, are nasty and useless. But that's another story.
I like the experiment where the guy got into a psychiatric hospital and showed that he couldn't get out. That was a good experiment, or whatever.
Yes, because this has nothing to do with mental illness. It has to do with administration.
Yes.
Oh, yes. It's easier to show that administrations are stupid or crazy or whatever it is than to show that people are or aren't crazy.
Yeah. It's interesting to me, like the conversion impulse, the policing impulse, the societal impulse to blame individuals all seem so destructive and so pervasive to me.
Yes, that's the scapegoat fact. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like as if we have misanthropia programmed into us, or like in our genes.
See, this is the most popular philosophy in all societies. There is a conflict between individual and society, and individual must yield. And if you remember the one teacher in elementary school whom you liked, and you try to think about it, you'll see that it was that person who did not believe what I just said.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. That the nice teacher knows that what I've just said is false.
Yeah.
Most teachers take it for granted that it's true. You see, most teachers believe that kids are lazy, although, as Popper said, even puppies want to learn. Children learn arithmetic by themselves. They learn to count backwards, to count in 2, 5, 10. They learn a lot. 1 + 1 in grade A kills them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When they are told that 1 + 1 = 2, they are puzzled. So the teacher explains to them that 1 + 1 = 2. Whereas what puzzles them is that you tell them something they know, the teacher explains it to them even more. Incredible, isn't it?
It is incredible. I I saw once when I was maybe 10, I saw a grandmother who was a school teacher for many years, try to teach a 5-year-old math. And she said, I am a math teacher, I will now teach him math. And she asked him what 5 + 4 was. And all she said to him was, think hard, what is 5 + 4? And I remember seeing a bunch of fruit right there and thinking like, how can you not incorporate these? And she just kept telling him and he kept freezing. And it was one of the first lessons I got about the nature of education systems.
It's one-way instruction. A kid does not understand one-way instruction. And so one-way instruction is terrible, but teachers like it because they are in control.
Two-way instruction is enabling questions or
interaction, whatever it is. The question what should happen in two-way instruction is very interesting. Locke said the only thing is that the teacher should not show initiative. Otherwise, he can do whatever, but not show initiative. As he said, the child has to prompt the teacher and not the other way around. And what most teachers say when I tell them that is the child will not prompt, he will play. Which, by the way, is true when you have to let him play for a couple of days, couple of weeks until he's bored. And then he plays the game you want him to play.
Yeah, not to mention that within the play there are prompts.
Of course, certainly. Yeah. This is how children learn arithmetic before school.
Yeah, with play.
The achievement of preschoolers is remarkable.
Learning language is pretty good.
What elementary school teachers don't realize is how difficult arithmetic is. For example, in mathematics departments in universities, they did not teach arithmetic, children arithmetic, until the 19th century, until the 20th century, sorry. In the 20th century, when I studied mathematics in the university, they taught me elementary arithmetic.
Really?
Oh, of course.
Wow.
You look puzzled.
I was a little puzzled to hear it.
Even the question, what is the number 1, is so difficult. The first theory about it was in 1870, and the second easier theory came in 1900. When I came to a mathematics class in Jerusalem, first year, first lesson in mathematics, the teacher came in. First, he made some administrative arrangements, and then he told a joke about himself, and then he cleared his throat. So that was the beginning. So he said, Peano's axioms. Axiom number 1, 1 is a number. I lost him. I lost him on the point. Axiom number 1, 1 is a number. And Peano was great, and his axioms are wonderful, but I learned them much later.
Well, I don't really understand what you're saying. The point is that the axiom is meaningless, or that it's too complex?
No, the point is that in geometry you have axioms, in arithmetic you don't. And Kant asked why and gave a lot of chit-chat to explain why. And he was wrong. They knew the axioms of geometry, they didn't know the axioms of arithmetic. Peano discovered the axioms of arithmetic.
Okay. So it's actually quite a complex task. So it's actually very complex.
It's a complex task because it handles something very commonplace. And you confuse the commonplace with the complex. It's a complex business to explain the commonplace. So it looks as if you look at the commonplace both as commonplace as very complex, which is contradictory, of course.
Yeah, it reminds me of the proof that some scientists made that bees are not able to fly.
Yes.
And they said, well, how come bees fly? He said they didn't read the research.
Yes. Yes, yes. By the way, the joke is not so much about bees as about airplane. In 1911, a professor of Harvard proved that there can be no airplane. And the brothers Wright did it earlier, yes.
Yeah.
By the way, they flew a few yards, I don't know if you know.
They what?
They flew the plane of the Wright brothers
Flew.
flew less than 100 yards.
I was vaguely aware of it.
Yeah, of course, before that there was what is it, flying without propeller. What is the word for the airplane without propellers? Without
Gliding?
glider, yes. The gliders were known before that, and of course also kite. But there was a famous glider, Otto Lilienthal was his name, who flew with gliders in all sorts of ways. Finally, he died by the wind.
That's so romantic for me. That's so lovely.
The gliders are less stable than the airplanes.
Of course. But the idea, I've never done it, but the idea of reading the wind and flying on it seems so magical and amazing, and also very, very good high. The other major topic I wanted to get into from misanthropia of society is creativity, because I feel like the misanthropia of society that we take into ourselves often kills a lot of creativity. And
there's no question. Many people said we are all creative, but very few of us have the occasion to try to be creative. And usually when people try to be creative, the society puts pressure on them to conform.
To conform or to be good, I think, is one of the biggest killers of creativity.
Good by conforming standards. You see, to be good means for a kid to get high grades. Not to be a good student, but to get high grades.
Yes, but I know people who play piano who won't play a song because they're going to miss the notes. And if they miss the note, they have to stop.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so type of conforming as well.
I know many people say piano teachers don't dare improvise.
Yeah, or perceive that there's something greater than the moment of creation, that the creation is supposed to stand a certain value.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like, I don't know, I think a lot about valuing things, about valuation of something as good or bad. And in a certain sense, it's very necessary for development. In another sense, it's really destructive to think that way. I don't know if you have an answer, or if I even asked the question.
No, you have just to be aware of it. You don't need an answer.
Yeah.
Not every question has an answer. And if you meet people who are upset by questions without answers, that's because they were told that if you ask a question, you must have an answer. By the way, Ludwig Wittgenstein was the philosopher who hated questions without answers. I think he was an ass, but that's my opinion. He was very popular, still is.
It's good you said that, because we can't go on, we can't have a podcast without slapping Wittgenstein. It's an unwritten rule.
He's so popular, what can I say? It's not only Wittgenstein, it's anti-positivism.
It's
anti-metaphysics, sorry, positivism, anti-metaphysics. I got into science because of my interest in metaphysics. And all my teachers in science or in philosophy knew that metaphysics is no good. And I, of course, I follow Einstein, thinking that without metaphysics, you can't do anything.
This is interesting you say that, because I see in you in your speech the physics a lot, the science a lot more than the metaphysics.
Yes.
You're a man of mathematics, of physics.
My interest in mathematics and physics was from metaphysics.
What about
I
metaphysics?
Hmm?
What about metaphysics? How do those merge?
What bothers people is that they may not merge. The metaphysics and physics have the same subject matter, but they may disagree. And when they are in conflict, then of course the rationalists will go with physics and the irrationalists will go with metaphysics. And that's the end of the story. And I said, no.
So what is the continuation of the story? The dance between the metaphysics and the physics?
That's one thing. The other thing is that metaphysics is a tool for research, and it can be good and it can be bad. And people say, since it can be bad, we should give it up. And I said, but it can be good.
What is an example of a metaphysical tool for research? Because for physical research, you have...
I'll answer you. Einstein had a research program that he stuck to all his life. He said, physics is a set of partial differential equations indifferent to certain sets of transformation. Now, I don't know if you understand this or not. It's a complex mathematics, but it's very definite and it's indicative because there are infinitely many partial differential equations, and each of them can be indifferent to a lot of kinds of transformation. So it is more of an invitation. It's like having a sentence with a few words missing, and then you can put different words into and get different sentences. And a sentence with a few words missing is called matrix, from the word mother.
Mm-hmm.
And metaphysics is often the matrix of scientific theories. But if the metaphysics goes wrong, then the theories go wrong. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
The most important metaphysics in modern world is the metaphysics of Newton. Newton said the world is space-time populated with point masses that interact with forces acting at a distance along connecting lines. Let's say between two parts, like in gravity, they attract each other or repel each other on the line that connects them. 2 points becoming a line.
Okay.
And there are lines that are not straight, like the magnetic lines, which are round.
Mm-hmm.
Electric lines, which are round. And mathematics is different. The mathematics of Newton is called differential equations, and the mathematics of the electricity is called partial differential equations. And when modern electromagnetic came up in the middle of the 19th century, in the 20th century there was a program how to make electromagnetics fit mechanics. And Einstein said, let's have mechanics fit electrodynamics. That was his first breakthrough.
I still didn't understand the metaphysics of Newton. What was the metaphysical?
The universe is point masses interacting by attraction or reaction or attraction or repulsion along a straight line.
Why is that metaphysical and not physical?
I'll give you an example. In experience, when you drive a car, you rotate a wheel.
Yeah.
Newton says, no, you don't rotate the wheel. You push the wheel from one side and you push the other side of the wheel in the opposite direction, and the result is rotation.
Okay.
So Newton explains rotation as attraction and repulsion along straight lines. Because when you rotate the wheel, your right hand and your left hand both go in straight line. That's why you have to leave the wheel and come back to another point, right? Boop, boop, boop,
Yeah.
right? Because your hand goes in straight line and the wheel goes not in a straight line, but in a circle.
Yes. I am still struggling. Maybe when I read the text, I will.
Again, when you take your two hands and assume there is something in between, when you do this, both hands go straight, but the thing between rotates. Again, so assume I have a pencil. Yeah, the pencil is straight. When I do this, the pencil rotates, but the hands don't. The hands go up and down.
Yeah.
So Newton said all rotation is a result of straight forces.
What about this is metaphysical? Why is this beyond physics?
Because Newton says every time you discover in nature a rotation, you should say this is not a rotation. And you should try to find the way to describe it not as rotation.
Okay. Okay. Wow. That is going to take some time to process, but I understand. I believe.
Science has research programs. Robert Boyle, who was a chemist and a leading thinker who created the modern scientific society, was chemist. And he said that his contribution was to translate chemical events from alchemy to the language of Descartes.
Alchemy is one thing that I never understood, and today people are doing it again.
Don't understand because you are too stupid. Forgive me. You are too stupid. You see, when in alchemy we speak about gold, I don't know if you know, but gold and the sun are synonyms.
Okay.
Ask me why.
Why?
I have no idea.
Because they're the same color?
So, no, you don't understand anything. Excuse me, forgive me. I
Yes.
don't wish to insult you, but as a teacher, I have to because you ask me questions that you shouldn't ask me because I don't know the answer. How dare you ask me? So I have to insult you.
What the hell is alchemy? What the hell is alchemy? I know
Alchemy is the theory that you can turn iron into gold. And the instrument with which you turn iron into gold is called the philosopher's stone.
Oh, yes.
Ask me why do they call them the philosopher's stone, and I know the answer.
Why do they call
Because the
them?
philosopher's stone doesn't only make you rich, it makes you intelligent.
Okay.
Now ask me how.
How?
I have no idea. I hope you see this game. I'm playing a game with you, but that's the answer to your question.
Of
Why
course.
alchemy is not a science. See, Newton wanted to make iron into gold. So they said he was an alchemist. That's not true. He was a scientist. He tried to do what alchemists try to do, but not their way. For example, an alchemist, like a Kabbalist, has to be humble. If you're not humble, then nature will not relieve secrets to you. And must be humble. You know, there is such a thing as practical Kabbalah, that you must know.
Yes.
Which is very linked to alchemy, by the way, and to medicine. I told you the philosopher's stone is healing.
Yeah.
Now, practical Kabbalah has a practical purpose. You know what's the practical purpose of the Kabbalah?
Is it to bring the Messiah?
Thank God, you are very good. Yes. Now, there were practical Kabbalists for generations. How come they didn't bring the Messiah? How come they didn't say, come on, this is not right? I tell you,
they didn't get it right yet?
Because to bring the Messiah, you have to be humble. And the nearer you are to success, the harder I have to finish.
Yes, this is the beautiful story that you referred me to once of Rabbi Joseph de la Reina.
That's right. He was a Kabbalist.
Yeah,
Kabbalah.
but the way we originally got into talking about alchemy, I forget who you said who was trying to translate alchemy into chemistry.
I told you Robert Boyle, the teacher of Newton.
And it sounded like, with that statement, it sounded like there was some merit to the alchemy mindset. Like there was some.
There's no question, because all the chemists in the ancient world were alchemists.
So what was the wisdom of alchemy? Was it just what chemistry kept?
See, the difference is that today, when we study chemistry, we don't ask whether your teacher is an honest man. And that's very, very bad. You don't, and so.
Okay.
You see, we have a man called Heisenberg.
Yeah.
Who was not a member of the party, but in every other respect, he was a Nazi.
Yes.
And he was a great scientist. He was a great scientist before he became Nazi, and after he was Nazi and denied that he ever was a Nazi and so on. Of course, it's just terrible people like Agassi say such things about him. You know, how can a scientist be so stupid as to be a Nazi?
Right.
I don't know if you know Konrad Lorenz, who's the biggest animal psychologist of all time, mentioned the Führer in a paper, scientific paper in 1941.
That what? Konrad Lorenz, was he the one who said America is as bad as Nazi Germany?
Not quite, but he said something like it. He said, nature hates extremism, and so I hate, so I hate extremism, so I hate both Auschwitz and American democracy. That's very.
That's amazing.
Yeah. By the way, there was a Hebrew translation of the book which translated this, and then I couldn't find the sentence anymore.
One of my favorite, one of the greatest comedians ever, his name was Norm Macdonald. He recently passed, and this reminds me of a joke he had. And he said, you know, I've been reading up on Hitler and about the genocides and the Nazi party, and the more I read about him, the more I understand that guy was a jerk.
Very nice.
And it's the beauty of he uses it subversively to show like the understatement, the irony, but Konrad Lorenz did it with a terrible motive.
I heard Konrad Lorenz before he died, and he said, I'm quoting from memory because he never published it, nature is not National Socialist. National Socialism is a mistake. The truth is national capitalism.
Okay. I mean,
now,
what
the Nazis came to power by the help of big money.
Okay. I'm lost in it's not true.
The difference between National Socialists and National Capitalists doesn't touch Nazism.
Okay, so he averts talking.
He makes the switch without making any switch.
Okay. I barely even know who Konrad Lorenz is, other than the fact that you said he was a scientist.
He is the biggest animal psychologist. You have to go to Wikipedia and write Konrad Lorenz and read a few sentences about him.
Okay.
He used the theory of imprinting. You know what's imprinting?
Oh, of course. Of course.
So he imprinted geese one way and ducks another way, and they all walked after him like a mother.
Oh, that guy. Yes.
That guy, now you know, because the picture of him walking with ducks behind him is very famous.
Yes. I think we covered an amazing array of topics for today.